Ever wondered why your eyes see something that your brain can't comprehend? Welcome to the intriguing realm of optical illusions. These are not just simple party tricks, but incredible phenomena where our eyes and brains seem to be in a disagreement, causing us to see things that aren't really there or perceive reality in strange, mind-bending ways. It's a testament to the complex and sometimes confounding relationship between vision and cognition. Intrigued? Let's dive into the fascinating world of optical illusions. Optical illusions are images or pictures that we perceive differently than they actually are. Now, that's a fairly simple statement, but it opens the door to a world of mind-bending visual trickery. So, what exactly are optical illusions? Well, in the most basic terms, they are images that deceive our brains into perceiving something that doesn't match the physical reality of the image. They're a fascinating mix of art, psychology, and science, all rolled into one. Let's take a moment to conjure up a few examples. Picture a still image that appears to be moving, or an image where the colors or sizes of objects seem to shift and change as you look at them. Or perhaps you've seen an image where you can't quite decide if you're looking at a rabbit or a duck. These are all examples of optical illusions. In essence, optical illusions are all about perception. They can be static or moving, and they can fool our brains into seeing things that aren't there. Think about a static illusion for a moment. These are images that are completely still, but our brains interpret them as moving. It's a weird sensation, right? That's because our brains are trying to make sense of the information they're receiving, and sometimes they get it wrong. Moving illusions, on the other hand, are a bit different. They use the motion of the image to create the illusion. A classic example is the spinning dancer illusion, where a silhouette of a spinning dancer appears to change direction. What's fascinating about optical illusions is that they reveal just how much our perception of reality is constructed by our brains. We like to think that we see the world exactly as it is, but optical illusions show us that's not always the case. Our brains are constantly interpreting the information they receive from our eyes, and sometimes they make mistakes. So, why do these optical illusions fool our brains? Let's find out. The science behind optical illusions is all about how our eyes and brains work together to interpret visual stimuli. To understand this, we need to start with the basics. What are our eyes really doing? They're capturing light. Light rays bounce off objects around us, and these rays are then captured by our eyes. When these rays hit the back of our eyes or the retina, they get converted into electrical signals. Now, this is where the magic happens. These electrical signals are then sent to the brain via the optic nerve. Our brain, the master of interpretation, takes these signals and constructs an image. It's like putting together a puzzle. This image is what we perceive as our visual reality. But here's the twist. Our brains don't always get it right. Sometimes they can misinterpret these signals, leading to what we know as optical illusions. Consider this. Our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world around us. They're trying to find patterns, fill in gaps, and make assumptions based on past experiences. This constant interpretation can sometimes lead to errors. For instance, when we're presented with an image that has ambiguous or conflicting information, our brains might struggle to interpret it accurately. They might fill in gaps with information that isn't actually there, or they could misinterpret certain aspects of the image. This results in an optical illusion, a visual perception that doesn't match reality. In essence, optical illusions are a testament to the power and complexity of our brains. They show us that our perception of the world isn't always accurate, and that our brains are capable of creating their own reality, one that can sometimes be quite different from the actual world around us. Now that we know the science, let's delve into some popular types of optical illusions. There are many types of optical illusions, each with their own unique ways of tricking our brains. As we dive deeper into the world of visual trickery, we encounter a multitude of illusions, each more beguiling than the last. First up, we have ambiguous illusions. These are the tricksters of the optical illusion world, presenting us with images that can be interpreted in more than one way. They challenge our brain's ability to decide on a single interpretation, leaving us in a state of delightful confusion. Moving on, we encounter distorting illusions. These illusions are the masters of deception, distorting our perception of size, length, and curvature. They make us question the very nature of reality, as objects appear larger, smaller, closer, or further away than they actually are. These illusions play with our minds, bending our perception of space and size. Next, we have the paradox illusions. These illusions are the ultimate brain teasers, presenting us with impossible objects and scenarios that defy logic and reason. They force our brains to grapple with concepts that simply cannot exist in our three-dimensional world, creating a sense of bewilderment and fascination. But the world of optical illusions doesn't stop there. There are numerous other types, including physiological illusions that exploit the mechanisms of our eyes and brain, and cognitive illusions that manipulate our understanding of the world. Physiological illusions use the physical workings of our eyes, brain, and the visual system to create illusions. They often involve excessive stimulation of a specific type: brightness, color, size, position, tilt, movement, which can lead to misinterpretation of what we see. On the other hand, cognitive illusions are all about the assumptions we make about the world based on our accumulated knowledge. These illusions often involve unconscious inferences, which can be so strong that they override what our eyes are actually seeing. These illusions are certainly mind-boggling, but let's understand why they trick us. Each type of illusion exploits a different aspect of our vision and perception, leading us to question our understanding of the world around us. Our brains are wired to make sense of the world around us, but sometimes they get it wrong. Ever wonder why optical illusions can trick our minds so effectively? The answer lies in the intricate workings of our brains, which are designed to interpret the vast amount of visual information our eyes receive every second. One key factor is our natural inclination to find patterns. Our brains are pattern recognition machines, always on the lookout for familiar shapes and structures. This is why we might see a face in the clouds, or interpret a series of lines as a specific object. It's a survival mechanism honed over millions of years of evolution. But sometimes this pattern-seeking behavior can lead us astray. In the case of optical illusions, our brains may recognize a pattern that isn't actually there, causing us to see something that doesn't exist. Another aspect is our reliance on past experiences. Our brains use our memories to help interpret the present. If we've seen a particular object or scene before, our brain uses that information to make sense of what we're seeing now. But again, this can be misleading. If an optical illusion mimics the visual cues of something we've seen before, our brain might fill in the gaps with incorrect information, creating a false perception. Finally, there's the need for speed. Our brains are constantly making quick interpretations of the world around us. We don't have time to analyze every single detail, so we make assumptions based on the limited information we have. This speed can also lead us to misinterpret optical illusions, as our brains make quick judgments that may not be accurate. So, what's the takeaway? While optical illusions may seem like simple tricks or games, they actually provide a fascinating insight into the workings of our brains. They show us that perception isn't just about what our eyes see, but how our brains interpret that information. So, optical illusions are not just fun tricks, they reveal a lot about how our brains work. Optical illusions, then, are not just visual trickery, but windows into the workings of our mind. They are a fascinating blend of art, science, and psychology, intricately woven together to create mind-bending visual experiences. We started our journey by defining what optical illusions are. They are not just random patterns or images. They're carefully crafted designs that exploit the brain's natural tendencies, making us perceive things that are not actually present or causing us to misinterpret what we see. Then we delved into the science behind them, discussing how our brains process visual information. We learned how our eyes and brain work together to interpret the world around us, but sometimes they get it wrong. This is where the magic of optical illusions comes into play. We explored the different types of optical illusions, from physiological illusions that result from the response of the eyes and brain to excessive stimulation, to cognitive illusions, where the brain fills in gaps or makes assumptions. We then asked the burning question: why do optical illusions trick us? The answer lies in the way our brains fill in gaps in our perception, based on what it expects to see rather than what is actually there. So, optical illusions are not just about tricking the mind. They're about understanding the amazing complexity and capability of our brains. Next time you see an optical illusion, remember it's not just a trick, it's a testament to the complexity of our brains.